Just in. Campaign says Biden doesn't have to win Iowa to capture 2020 nomination.
Wii U. I mean, that's a really good campaign strategy. It worked really well for Hillary to just like ignore most of like the Midwest and upper Midwest and just consider it a fucking tap-in, you know? Like, what could go wrong?
I think to be fair to Joe Biden, he's already backtracked on that and said that Iowa is the key to the kingdom, actually.
Oh boy,
Wait,
yeah.
he said those words? Key to the kingdom?
Apparently, according to this Gazette article I just saw.
That is so stupid. Everything about this election is stupid.
It is, but the good news is I don't have to pretend that I haven't been canvassing for Biden anymore. I can. If he doesn't want my support, then I'm not going to give it to him anymore, and I'm going to become a Buttigieg boy.
Buttigieg boy. Just a soldier in Buttigieg's army.
Yeah.
Do they have a name? Because I know the Kamala Harris people call themselves the K-Hive, and I want to die.
Oh my god, me too.
It's real. They're the most, like, aggressive of all the people.
Yeah.
What would Pete Buttigieg follow? I mean, it's got to be a play on the last name, obviously, because, like, that last name is, like...
No, they have the, like, butt edge shirts or whatever.
I know what it is. It's the boot edge lords.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
I'm going to do a proper introduction now. Welcome to Rock Hard Caucus, Episode 3. I'm Justin. I'm here with Chuck, Evan, and Natalie.
Hello.
We're back.
What up?
Hey. Wait, did you say me already?
Yeah, I said you all in a row.
Yep. Package deal.
Yeah. We're back. We're delivering more propaganda from the corn state. First in the nation, caucus state, unless the DNC screws us out of that, which apparently is happening.
I mean, good for them. They should do it.
We took a week off for Labor Day. That's why we didn't do an episode last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Did you know that 4 people can have 4 wildly different schedules?
Yeah, it's really odd, you know? Like 4 people from like 4 distinctly different walks of life. It's, you know, can be kind of hard to get them together all at one point, but here we are. It's a lovely Saturday morning here in Iowa. I, of course, coming in from the 1st district as always.
Mm-hmm.
Justin from the 2nd. Natalie and Evan out there in number 3.
I'm drinking some delicious corn bourbon from Cedar Ridge.
Yeah, and I am having a double two-hearted ale. It is a double... You know what? You don't fucking care. Why am I talking about it? Listen, I'm having a beer, okay?
Yeah. We have yet to recruit anyone from the 4th District, the Lost Kingdom, but we will be talking about it a little bit later today.
Boy, will we ever.
Before we get to that, I've seen a recent sort of trend on Twitter, people talking about the character Hank Hill and whether he would have voted for Donald Trump or not.
I have some very controversial takes about this, but I think we should lay out some framework first.
Yeah, so the tweets I've seen mostly seem to indicate that there is no way Hank Hill would have voted for Donald Trump, and these people are very smug about their King of the Hill opinions. They think that anybody that thinks Hank may have voted for Trump misunderstands the show, and I think Chuck and I both disagree with that.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of time to think about this. You know, I try to use the limited brain power I have to think about stuff like this, and when I do, I think hard about it. So, obviously, Hank is a conservative. I think we can all agree on that. He, you know, lives in the heart of Texas. He's down there in Ted Cruz country.
There's an episode about voting for George Bush.
There is, and he has a limp handshake, and it fucking Hank is like so caught off guard by it that it traumatizes him. George Bush has a limp handshake. Yeah. Anyways,
I bet he really does too.
He probably does, dude. I could see Hank, you know, being a Ted Cruz guy early on. Obviously, you know, he had to, you know, vote for Trump. I could see 2 things happening with Hank. So one is the obvious, like, you know, he's Republican, he's gonna fucking vote for Trump. The second thing is he votes for him not because he has to, but he sees Trump as a Buck Strickland-like character, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yes, one of the very frequently reoccurring things in the show is Buck Strickland just being like this like slimeball, like small business tyrant kind of guy, and Hank just like doing whatever mental gymnastics he has to do to explain away otherwise bad things that Buck does that he would find morally reprehensible if anyone else did them.
Man, that's a good point.
I could see Hank doing that, you know?
Yeah, just how every like social conservative justifies voting for Trump and supporting him.
Yeah, basically. And that show, of course, I've always thought it was like objectively supposed to be conservative satire, you know?
It definitely is, but like Mike Judge is like kind of off the deep end now.
Yeah, he's like a wacko libertarian, isn't he?
I think it's fair to say that all of the good family would have voted for Hillary.
Absolutely, yes.
Anyone remember that garbage?
Yeah, the good
Yes, I do.
family. Goode.
Yes, and I believe Mike Judge is just kind of like a conservative, kind of seemingly pretty like libertarian.
Yeah.
He definitely is.
He did a promo spot for InfoWars a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Isn't he like kind of Ben Garrison-esque, like Ben Garrison light in like his sort of his political disposition? I remember seeing some like pretty weird stuff from him on
I
Twitter.
don't know about that.
Well, that's why I say light. Like, it wasn't like the insane, like, racist fucking dog shit that Ben Garrison cranks out. Friend of the show, by the way. But he's sort of like a tier. He's like a tier below that, and to me. Like, he's on the edge of doing that. Like, he could be a Ben Garrison-esque character, you know?
Yeah, if he was a little more racist, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
So my take on this is that Hank Hill is sort of a composite of like real people that Mike Judge knew in Texas. And I can guarantee you like every one of those real life people voted for Trump. Anybody in your life that reminds you of Hank Hill voted for Donald Trump for sure.
Because they had to. There was no other option.
Well, this is another thing that I was thinking about is I know people that are Republicans and they're otherwise good people, right? I mean, they didn't want to vote for Donald Trump. You know, they sort of had to. The blind support for the party, like just get our guys, you know, our team, you know, stick together, blah, blah, blah. But there's a difference between the people that voted for Trump and people that are like Trump guys. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I can't see Hank being like a fucking Trump guy, especially
No.
now. I think
No.
that maybe Hank, if he were a real person, I think he might be kind of questioning, you know, by now.
Yes. Yes.
I think
for
that
sure.
I think that enough things would have happened that like eventually something would have sort of broken through, and he'd be like, you know, maybe this guy really ain't so great, and he is a Bill Weld guy now.
No, Joe Walsh definitely, because Joe Walsh had the same moral qualms about Trump. He just realized that like maybe I am racist. Maybe I am. Yeah, more likely Joe Walsh than Bill Weld for sure.
I think what you're saying is that Hank Hill would have launched his own primary campaign against Donald Trump.
He was my only reticence is he was very, very into like politeness and
Oh, yeah.
not being, you know, but I actually argued it with Cooper saying that he for sure did vote for Trump, but
Well, it's a good show that, you know, he's like a three-dimensional character
yes.
to a certain extent, even though it's a cartoon.
He's quite literally a two-dimensional.
He's
character.
quite literally a two-dimensional character, but they have to add.
The third dimension is personality.
We all know conservatives, and they're not all bad people by any means. They're just
There can be sympathetic qualities. Sure.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about other characters on the show? I mean, I don't know. I know that Justin and I both have probably seen every episode many times.
I
Yeah.
have also seen every episode more than any other
Perfect. Okay. So my question is, Dale Gribble came up, and we were talking about this earlier in our DM.
No, Dale Gribble did not vote for Trump. I will die on this hill.
I have two theories.
I do also, but I want to hear Justin's first.
Okay, my first theory, which I think bears out in the show, is that Dale Gribble has never voted
Likely.
and therefore wouldn't have voted for Trump. My other theory is he got like really into Pizzagate and all the stuff that was going on at 4chan right before the 2016 election, and decided that he had to vote for Trump. So he voted for Trump under several different fake identities.
Yes, that is, I think, would be most likely. I could see him very much being a QAnon guy. I think we can all agree
Yes,
that Dale...
definitely.
Yeah, definitely a QAnon guy, and I think that he was the type of QAnon guy that thinks, you know, maybe Trump can end the Fed, you know, because that's one, I think that's one sort of common belief in the QAnon crowd is that the reason that JFK and Abraham Lincoln were killed was because they had planned on ending the Fed, right?
Oh my God, that's so stupid.
Dale fucking doesn't like the government. Why not, support a guy that's could bring it down according to the Q insiders, So I could see, I can see Dale, like Justin said, voting for him several times under one of his many aliases, but not being like a MAGA guy,
Definitely never a MAGA guy. And I feel like he would have conspiracies against Trump, but I 100% do not think he voted. I just think he would refuse to engage. I don't know.
Yeah, that side of it makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
I have the list of King of the Hill characters Wikipedia article pulled up. Do you wanna?
let's go through them real quick. Yeah, let's
Okay,
not spend too much time on each of them, but let's go rapid fire. I'm ready for this. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, Peggy Hill.
Hillary.
You think?
I think either Hillary or
Hillary,
Jill
but
Stein.
she would have told no one.
Yeah.
I think that she would have voted for Jill Stein because Jill Stein makes her feel smart. And Peggy is very much about stroking her ego and like confirming her own intelligence. So like I think that she probably would have been like a Jill Stein supporter, but it would have probably voted Hillary in the general election.
Bobby Hill. I know he's underage, but
he would have got sucked into some YouTuber alt-light group and probably would have succumbed to the Trump disease that was introduced to people through fucking like Let's Play fucking gamers and shit.
I think that he would have voted for Jill Stein. I think he'd be a Bernie person. He's my favorite character.
yeah, Bobby is the most like human of the characters, I think.
He's the goodest person, so I think he's the only Bernie supporter, probably.
I got that, yeah.
What about Bill Dotrieve?
Ooh,
Trump.
this is okay. Bill, I thought about this one a lot, and I could see Bill going any which way. Bill has shown himself to be like very easily influenced throughout the course of the show.
That's true, yeah.
I could see Bill like wildly careening between various candidates based on whichever one sounded the best at the time, and like whichever one that everyone else in the alley was supporting.
That is so true.
Oh, I have like a perfect plot point for the show. He encounters like some campaign's booth at an event, and there's like an attractive woman volunteering for the campaign.
Okay, that's what's true.
Yeah, and then he comes across another campaign booth with another attractive woman, and that's what like bounces him between campaigns.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like a pretty woman being nice to him.
Yes.
Yep.
And he's like, yes, that's my guy.
So, and then eventually attending a Hillary rally, and she briefly makes eye contact with him, and there's his vote.
Yep, that's perfect. How about Boomhauer?
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson, 100%.
Gary Johnson.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Luann Platter, R.I.P. Brittany Murphy.
Oh my God, I thought about this one a lot.
She was a communist, wasn't she?
She was. I don't know if that.
No, it didn't stick, but she was very briefly a communist for one episode. I mean, Luann, probably Trump. She's like your classic, like, Caitlyn Bennett, whatever the fuck her name is, the Kent State gun girl, like, just dumb, fucking, empty-headed, dipshit MAGA person. Just, like, eats up every single meme that gets thrown at her that even slightly reflects her ideology, which barely has any merit to begin with.
Yeah, she's like a sweet little evangelical girl. She'd definitely get sucked into Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Though, she did have communist sympathies, so hopefully at some point in her life, she'll come back.
She can be radicalized.
In a general election versus Trump and Bernie, she might defect. Maybe.
There's one more that I do want to mention. What about Cotton Hill?
Oh, Jesus, really? Like, do we even need to talk about? Like, dude, that's a Trump guy all the way.
Trump, obviously.
Like, besides Buck Strickland, he's probably the most MAGA dude on the show. Just like abrasively, just like sharing these like shitty, angry fucking memes on his page that like.
Oh my God, yeah! Imagine Cotton Hill on Facebook.
Oh my God,
dude, he is like the boomeriest of the boomer old person Facebook ranters that like post insane racist shit on Facebook, and then they occasionally get caught making a comment on some page called like Big Titty Honkers 18 plus, calling like a picture from some porn that they uploaded on there for clicks. Oh, so beautiful, baby.
He would not be ashamed of that in the slightest, though.
No, unapologetic.
Okay, we have another king to discuss. It's time to talk about Steve King of the Hill.
Nice segue.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
I have some audio to play, so I need to switch my Discord settings real quick. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Okay.
That was, I call it the red carpet treatment, but it was the official tour for members of Congress that the Border Patrol sets up. I went through the detainment facilities that are there. I got a good look at a good number of the folks that were detained in those facilities. I actually went into that cell where it was reported that they were advised they had to drink out of the toilet. I took a drink out of there, and it's actually pretty good. So I have a videotape, and I smacked my lips, but I didn't send it out because I thought, this subject just needs to go into the rearview mirror. Why'd I bring it up now, you ask?
I got a nice videotape, me drinking out of a toilet. I'm not going to release. I'm just going to keep it for my own use,
I'm not going to release it because perverts might find it and use it for their obscene purposes.
Oh, God.
The video actually has been released. The audio is not interesting, so I'm not going to play it here. But yeah, there's a video of Steve King drinking out of a toilet.
Does he use like a straw? And is it a paper straw?
Nope, just his face in the fucking bowl.
No, the toilet that he drinks out of isn't broken. Because the whole thing was that the sink on the back of the toilet was broken, and that's why they were drinking out of the toilet.
In these detention facilities, there's toilets with drinking fountains on the back of them.
Yeah. I've encountered one before. There was a place that we used to camp out at when I was a kid where one of the bathrooms had those toilets installed in it for some odd reason. I always thought it was like the oddest fucking thing ever. Like,
interesting.
Let's just put a drinking apparatus, like, a foot or so from this thing where there's piss splattering everywhere and like shit particles flying into the air when it flushes, because these things don't have any lids either. It's just the seat. So like whatever you flush in there is going everywhere, and it's going all over that fucking fountain.
Oh my God.
Wait, so Steve King took a drink out of the water fountain on top of the toilet and then said it was that he was drinking the toilet water.
He said it was pretty good. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know about this. There was like a controversy a little while ago when I think AOC visited one of these camps and said that people being detained there were forced to drink out of the toilet, and, dipshit racists like Steve King are going out of their way to prove her wrong, to show that drinking out of the toilet is good, actually.
Truly owning the libs.
I love how both, totally afraid of her they are and how extremely horny they are for her at the same time.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
They would definitely drink her toilet water.
Yes, they would. Oh my God, they would.
And also, I was going to say, Steve King would be the first to, call someone who had a toilet fetish a disgusting, pervert.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, he would kink shame the shit out of anyone else who were to enjoy drinking toilet water as much as he does.
God, dude, Can you imagine some of the weird
True
fucking shit
hypocrite.
that guy's got to be into?
He's in the weirdest shit. I mean, just
I bet
horrifying.
he is. Yeah, I bet you he dresses up in fucking Nazi regalia.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, for sure.
That's canon at this point. The Steve King canon.
Imagine Steve King's basement.
Imagine Steve King's YouPorn history. Oh my God.
So we should probably do a full Steve King episode at some point, because
there's
dude's
enough
a
content
character.
there for sure.
He's a piece of fucking work.
Real quick, I'd like to thank friend of the show Jordan Blue for pointing out this Steve King toilet water drinking event to us. Follow him on Twitter, Junkie Soda. Listen to his music,
Yes,
Cheap
sir.
Fantasy.
The artist
He's a good
formerly
dude.
known as Frankie Teardrop.
That's him.
Yep, Minnesota contingent.
Something that we want to try to do with this podcast is to shine a light on some of the state's legislators. Natalie knows the most about that. She has had to meet with these people, had to actually interact in person with some of these freaks. So she has a pretty good feature on one of them today. He's actually a former state senator, is that right?
Yeah, he's a former one, but he's just so good, and he's the one I talk to the most that, I want to talk about him.
It's a great story to start with. So who is this guy?
Okay, so his name is Mark Chelgren, and he is just the perfect example of the people that are in your state legislatures, which are actually the most consequential people in politics for any one specific person living in their state. That is the thing that impacts you the most.
Oh, yeah.
And I want you to kind of imagine the most evil, but also the stupidest person you can think of, and then multiply that by 10, and he is a legislator for one of the really far up northern counties where no one lives. And like literally these people are so stupid. Like I was telling the guys earlier about Skylar Wheeler, who keeps getting reelected. He was just reelected in this last cycle, and the only other job he's had in his entire life ever was working at Staples, and he was fired for stealing a bunch of office supplies. And I know that our podcast feels that this is good and shoplifting is good, which
yeah,
it
is praxis, but
but like literally anyone can be one. Like if you are in a county right now listening to us that is sparsely populated, it's really important to me that you just run for state senate.
Yeah,
just
fuck it.
just
Do it.
You can do it. These people are incredibly stupid.
This guy's 26 years old. According to this, he was actually born in Washington. He lives in a city I've never heard of called Orange City, Iowa. And he is a member of the House representing the 4th District out there. So, like Natalie said, if you're out there in the barren wasteland that is Western Iowa, fucking run. Fuck it. What's the worst that can happen?
I
You'll
will
lose
come
by
and
like 3
fucking
votes.
canvass for you.
Yeah,
I will
fucking A.
I will be your like fucking campaign manager. I can do it. Just please run against these people. Fun fact, Skylar Wheeler blocked Cooper on every social media platform because he cyberbullied him so bad.
Hell yeah,
Nice.
that a boy.
And it was like fair. Like that's the one time I've been like, okay, fair. Like you should have Cooper blocked.
We have to have Cooper on the show.
Okay, so, but this is a former one, and I just feel like he gives a really good taste going into it, and honestly, I just think he's so funny that I want to talk about him. Like, this is not really a relevant person to you, but it is just like a really good encapsulation. And as we get closer to the legislative session, I'm going to talk more about some of the, like, more evil and effective people, like Sandy Salmon.
What?
It sounds like a SpongeBob
Yeah, I was
character.
gonna say.
That is the most rabid pro-lifer in the entire state legislature. And she's just so unnerving. God, I hate her. Okay, but I want to talk about Mark Chelgren because I actually think he's kind of funny and enjoyed him in real life a little bit.
Sweet.
But first of all, I want to include in the episode or show notes or something a picture of him from college where he's dressed as an enormous chicken and has a skirt pinned up over giant chicken balls. And
Nice.
Hell yes.
Hell yeah.
he's
The
just
guy
posing
owns.
from 2 ladies and posted it on the internet. Okay, so
He's got my vote.
the reason that Mark Chelgren is in all of our lives, like what he's most famous for, is that he wrote and pushed a bill that was supposed to achieve greater diversity among professors. And
Oh, yeah.
the Board of
Diversity,
Regents would issue
I don't know where this is going.
issue a hiring freeze until the number of registered Republicans and Democrats on the university faculty fall within 10% of another. Just the absolute stupidest bill.
That seems pretty anti-free market to me. I mean, free market of ideas.
Well, let's face it. All of the produce in the marketplace of ideas is rotting. Like,
Yeah, but how many Republicans want to teach and not just ram propaganda down their students' throats?
Okay, so it's only because of this that people start digging into his background. So I just want you to imagine this story thousands of times across the country, and just no one has looked into people's background. Like, the only reason that someone knows what happened with Mark Chelgren is because he issued this bill, and everyone was like, well, where the fuck did you go to college? Because that's the next question that you would ask, which why would you ever
Logically.
force a bill? Okay, so I'm going to start reading the article about it, because it's just my favorite fucking thing.
hell yeah.
Okay, in Iowa, this is from the Register. An Iowa state senator denied Wednesday that he misrepresented his biological information after questions were raised, after questions were raised about his educational background. So according to NBC, like that's how big this got. Biographical information for Senator Mark Chelgren, Republican for Ottumwa, of course. On the Iowa State Senate Republicans' website, he stated he had a business degree from California-based Forbco Management School. But so he's
Forbco?
saying he's saying he has a fucking college degree or an MBA in business is what he's clearly implying. But Forbco isn't listed as an accredited school by the National Center for Education Statistics, and records show the only Forbco in California is the company that once operated a Sizzler steakhouse in Torrance, California.
Nice.
And asked by a Des Moines Register reporter Wednesday if he misrepresented his biography, Chelgren said plainly, "No, I did not." Quote, "This was Forbco Management School, which ran Sizzler restaurants and a few other different restaurants, and I spent 6 months in order to be promoted from associate manager to assistant manager when I was 19. I had to take their school and their classes, and they gave me their degree, and they termed it that, so I have used that terminology." Quote, "I was told, well, it's probably better terminology to say certificate. So regardless
Baller. I love this dude now.
Certificate.
Damn, I'm glad I know about him now.
A diploma
Cool.
is a certificate. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's be fair
I'm
here.
going to start using this. Like, fuck
we're
it. I've been to
so
college.
irony poisoned that we're like, yeah, that's awesome.
I
Okay,
mean, this
but
sounds like the kind of
listen,
business
I should start
experience.
with these people's politics, so it's not like here's a wacky story about it.
Yeah. I
These are
suppose.
actual evil people. Ed Failer, a spokesperson for the Iowa Senate Republicans, told NBC News that Chelgren received a certificate from management course he took while working at Sizzler, but it's not accurate to say Chelgren has a business degree. Quote, "It's kind of like the hamburger university at McDonald's."
Of course, yeah. That's the example.
Amazing. Chelgren told NBC News he wasn't aware of the error on his website, which was reportedly removed from his bio page. And then it says he's currently pushing whatever bill, blah, 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 blah.
So he's like the Jimmy McGill of the 4th District.
Hey, this sounds like the kind of business experience that someone who is in government needs to have a successful career. That really, it sounds like he's just delivering what his constituents want. I mean,
Yeah, that could take us from
delicious
assistant
steaks.
manager
I
to
mean, I'm pretty sure
managers.
his constituents probably only really care about going to a steakhouse. Like that's their idea of like Sizzler to them is probably
Yep. At 3 p.m. Get the early bird special.
I mean, I don't see the problem at all.
Okay, so when I do this, I'm going to start talking about their politics first because that's awesome, and Skylar Wheeler shoplifting is awesome. And now that we're talking about it together, I believe
Now we're conservatives.
yeah, and also
See you guys
we don't
next week.
gatekeeping with education and question college. So, I apologize, Mark Chelgren. I hate the rest of the time I've ever talked to you, but I think that's awesome.
I imagine this is the kind of guy who would say something like, "Oh, those burger flippers, they want to get paid the same hourly wage as our doctors and
Absolutely.
ambulance
the burger
drivers."
flippers.
And
Absolutely.
he got his bachelor's degree from a restaurant.
He graduated valedictorian, man. Stop hating.
From fucking Hamburger University.
I'm looking over his Wikipedia article, and this is just to give you guys, Natalie mentioned earlier, if you live in Western Iowa and you live somewhere where fucking nobody lives, just run. I'm looking at how he was elected in 2010 to the Senate. He defeated incumbent Democrat Keith Creeman, I believe. Kryman? Whatever this is.
I prefer Keith Creeman.
Keith Cream and his jeans.
Creeman.
He won the election by 11 votes.
Damn.
11 votes decided it, and he's been there ever since. And he also endorsed a friend of the show, Michelle Bachmann, in the 2012 presidential election.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Mark Chelgren.
Oh, wow. She burned out way
I forgot
too
about
fast.
her.
She's
It's a
a shooting
throwback.
star.
Anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to get too far off track there.
No, it's fine. He's
No, that's
just
good information.
genuinely the most condescending person I've ever talked to in my entire life.
He looks like it.
Yeah, and so I spoke at a Senate subcommittee hearing attempting to not cut funding from a community service club I had with a bunch of at-risk youth with potential girls. And he wanted to cut it because Planned Parenthood, also provides abortions. But he didn't understand how any of it worked. So I went before the committee. He was
They sell fetuses to Pepsi, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes. And so he was like really insistent, and then I stood up and gave a speech and started crying and just watched him fucking melt. And it's the most manipulative and the most amazing I've ever felt. I read aloud a letter that one of the girls, like a 6th grade girl, wrote me about how she didn't have any role models in her life, and I was she looked up to me more than any, and I'm just crying, and he's like, he comes up to me afterwards and he's like, I'm gonna let you keep your girls club. Yeah, and then he was
Natalie,
like,
you know what?
Affecting real
I'm
change.
an incel now.
How benevolent of him.
and he was like, you're not gonna know how any of this works, and then goes on and explain everything I know.
Oh,
how
fuck
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
He's like, he looked at the lobbyist standing next to me, and it was like, but I'm going to talk to her about XXX, whatever. Like, you're just here crying. But it fucking worked. So fuck you.
100%.
I felt amazing. He absolutely melted. And it was good. And then he came up afterwards and was like, I'll let you keep your girls club. You're not going to understand how the rest of this works. But I did get to keep my girls club, so.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the feeling of rage that I would feel had I been in your shoes. And he comes up and he's like, I'll let you do this, sweetie, but you don't need to understand how the rest of this works. I'm sure that your brain is incapable of comprehending how the rest of this process works. Like, I might have fucking headbutted the guy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's fucking that's so condescending. Like just put you in a fucking box like that and just kind of all right, now go away. Is like, my fucking God.
I don't want you to cry anymore. I hate it when girls cry. Go away.
Aw.
I know you didn't get a Burger King business degree, so you may not understand.
I wanted to bring up Sizzler so bad because at that point I knew about Sizzler, and I had to coach myself beforehand. You cannot yell Sizzler.
God, see, that's why I'm not equipped to go to things like this, because I'm just too fucking crass with these people. I have zero patience for them.
That's what I was going to say. If you are going to run, you have to be able to fight, You can't let these people walk all over you, because the thing is they're basically grifters,
Yes.
I mean, they are grifters 100%, but they know how to bullshit and manipulate. And so Natalie crying is the
good at this.
perfect alternative that they can't deal with.
It'd be great to get some actual fast food workers to run for state legislature.
Yes, actually, if you do have a hamburger university certificate, I'll run your campaign.
Yeah, I mean, if you display it proudly instead of pretending it's something
Yeah,
it's
that's
not.
awesome. That'd be awesome.
That's the issue, is you can't just say, I was a manager at a Sizzler Steakhouse. That's awesome. You should be in government because you're impacted every day. But he had to lie and say he had, an MBA and then push this thing about professors propagandizing. Just, that's the issue with the story, is he makes me want to shower.
I prefer his bill where he said he was going to lock up the Hamburglar for good.
Thank God.
Does the Sizzler have a cast of characters like that?
Evan and I were actually talking about this earlier before the show started. I have never eaten at a Sizzler before. The only time I've ever heard Sizzler referenced in pop culture was I think the Bloodhound Gang would reference it in a couple of their songs, I want to say.
Oh, it's people also search for Golden Corral. I don't know what a Sizzlers is, so I guess it's a Golden Corral.
I know about Golden Corral, yeah. Golden
Yeah,
Corral.
I fucked with Golden Corral, dude.
That's fancy dining right there.
I'll tell you guys something, right? Buffets, they're not just for boomers. They're for people like you and I.
That's a good deal. That's a good deal
Dude,
right
there's
there.
nothing-
Unlimited.
There's nothing like a good fucking casino buffet.
Ew.
Don't fucking at me. Don't fucking email me. Don't message me. I don't care, dude. A
You
good
get your
casino
16-ounce
buffet is where
sirloin.
it's at.
You get that unlimited
so gross.
buffet.
Dude, Jack and A, man. You can't go wrong.
It's
If you go on crab legs night, that's the
Oh,
best.
fuck yeah, dude. See, here's a man that likes the finer things in life.
Oh shit, we need to talk about Pizza Ranch at some point too.
Pizza
Yeah,
Ranch
Pizza
is
Ranch
bad,
also-
but
Oh
it used
yeah,
to be
there's
my
that
favorite.
Pizza Ranch article about that lady for
Yeah.
Gawker.
Yeah,
or
but
whatever. Who
oh my
wrote-
God, Pizza Ranch is so good.
But yeah, that article was demeaning and offensive to me.
The chicken
Because
chicken
Pizza
is
Ranch,
so good.
yeah, Pizza Ranch. I'm sorry, but
It's so
It
good. Their
has-
dessert pizza, you guys.
it has some upsides. Oh, but there's a whole story about the Pizza Ranch. Oh man, we need to talk about this in another episode because there's a whole story about the Pizza Ranch. One of the founders of Pizza Ranch, I don't want to reveal it, but yeah, we definitely need to talk about Pizza Ranch in a future episode.
Okay, yeah, save it for later.
But I think Pizza Ranch is definitely like very important to understanding like the caucus, Iowa caucus culture.
They all go to Pizza Ranch.
Yeah, exactly. It's a gathering place for pretty much every like small town in Iowa. That's like where my grandparents, like I'm from Washington, Iowa originally, and that's like where my grandparents would always go. And like we'd always have like family meetings there and
yes,
stuff.
family. Like when you had big family dinners, you would go to Pizza Ranch always.
Yep, and there's one in every single small town in Iowa.
And like it's like affordable, and everyone
affordable.
gets sick with how much they eat. It's perfect.
I Pizza Ranch, the chicken is so good. I love it, but I have never once not gotten diarrhea from it.
I know, it's so I always just have like
Oh man,
the most
it's just
painful
like,
asshole
I know, like
for the next 3 days.
Oh god, like it just is it worth it though? Is the thing.
It's
but,
so
you know,
worth it.
Yeah, fuck it, man. Like,
I'm more about the dessert pizza, like Natalie said. That shit's good.
Dessert pizza. Yeah.
I miss Pizza
I don't
Hut
eat a lot
buffet.
of sweets.
Like Pizza Hut salad, like the fact that they're closing all the like eat-in Pizza Huts is like it's crushing to me. It breaks my spirit.
Did you guys know that the Pizza Hut
Too much of a
buffet is
tangent, probably, but whatever. I'm sorry.
Pizza Hut was the #1 consumer of kale, like purchaser and
Yeah.
user of kale
No.
prior to because they
It's
would
for the
use it to line
decorations.
the salad
Yep.
bar.
Yeah, it's so like green and frilly. It's like dark green.
Yeah,
That's what we think is decorations in Iowa.
yeah.
Fucking kale. You don't
It's
eat
fancy.
that shit?
So to close us out today, I'd like to introduce another character to the Rock Hard Caucus cast. This is a guy. His name is Joseph Dobrian. He's a writer here in Iowa City. He writes a lot of opinion columns for the Press Citizen. And here's his bio off of his website, so you know a little bit about him before we get into his work. Joseph Dobrian is a novelist, essayist, poet, and financial journalist, also known as a political activist and TV talk show host. Hardwired is his third novel. Previous books include the novels Ambitions and Willie Wilden, and the best-selling collection of essays Seldom Right but Never in Doubt.
We need to put the Willie book picture in the show notes too, because it's like a minstrel show of an American Indian.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's bad.
Yeah. He ran for mayor of New York City in 2009 and now lives in Iowa City, Iowa with 4 rescue cats.
That's good.
Oh.
Who rescued who?
He's amazing.
It gives you a little peek into his home life. Okay. Mr. Dobrian has been writing for his living for more than 30 years. He writes about real estate, finance, management, luxury retail, and other topics for clients such as blah, 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 blah. He has helped several noted business people to write their personal memoirs. When he's not writing, researching, or looking for new clients, he's attending classical music concerts and recitals, political meetings, literary events, or Iowa Hawkeyes football
Oh, I
games.
fucking hate this guy already.
He's amazing already. I love him.
He mentions in his bio that he attends classical music concerts and recitals, and that's how he actually first came onto my radar. If you don't know, I was a music grad student at the University of Iowa a few years ago, and Mr. Dobrian is an avid attender of a lot
That's
of
good.
events at the University of
Supporter
Iowa
of the arts.
School of Music. Well,
That being said,
it seems like he mostly goes to look at and talk to young women.
Oh.
nice. What a fucking player, dude.
Also, I want to be sure I understood this correctly. He ran for mayor of New York
Yeah,
City.
like that's kind of like.
Wait, what?
like
I wonder how
sticking
many
out amongst
votes he
all
got.
this.
Yeah, it's in there. I don't really know the story behind that. Maybe we'll get into that sometime later. I'll dig into that in the
Friend
future.
of the show.
Yeah.
I wanna pull the results of that election. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. It was 2009. Yeah, so I ran into this guy because he was like showing up to all of these classical music events and adding people on Facebook and then like getting into arguments with people.
Nice.
And so I once
Oh my God.
I once like made fun of him for like defending John McCain and talking about states' rights and stuff. And then I found out he writes for the newspaper.
Oh boy.
Apparently, our boy here, Joseph Dobrian, he ran for mayor of New York under the Libertarian Party and was vice chair of the Libertarian Party of New York for about a year.
Wow. That's
A
What
celebrity
do you know?
in our
That's weird.
midst.
That's prestigious.
Yeah, a guy talking to young women, and like,
Who, has some thoughts about the age of consent.
it's epiphilia or epiphilia or whatever it is. It's not fucking
It's
pedophilia.
not
Okay?
pedophilia.
Right, like read about ancient Rome and ancient Greece. Like, come on.
I did a small amount of research on him before, and apparently he likes to walk around in custom-made three-piece suits.
Oh, hell
Yes.
yeah,
That he-
King.
Oh, sweet. He's one of those guys.
Yep.
He really seems like, just based on, just purely biographically, he seems like basically like a proto fedora guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's an old fedora guy.
That's awesome.
So I have a series of his pieces that I'm planning to pepper into the show. And we're going to start things off with an article titled, "The Problem Isn't Guns, It's How Our Society Treats Boys."
Oh, yeah. Fucking serve me
yeah.
this shit, dude. Serve me a big hot
As a
fucking
boy.
plate of this. Yeah. As a boy, I have a lot of takes about this, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
All
this was published by the Iowa City Press Citizen on March 13th of 2018. The subject is guns, and if you remember, this is about a month after the Parkland shooting of last year. Mass shootings are extremely rare. Yeah, that's aged well. They account for 1 to 2% of gun deaths in the U.S. in most years,
The rest are in Chicago.
according to the Mises Institute.
Oh yeah.
The U.S. is far from the top country in per capita mass shootings. We're about 11th. Rampage shootings at a school specifically make up a tiny fraction of mass shootings.
I'm sorry, who's in front of us by capita?
I'm not going to pull up the article.
I
but
know, but like,
apparently
I'm
there
just
are
like, are
10
you kidding me?
countries.
Like,
Someplace
you talk
with
about these
10
countries,
people.
you talk about like fucking Somalia, like somewhere where there's like very little fucking government, and there's just like, you just got like dictators running fucking wild.
Every military officer would be counted as a gun death because we see them as illegitimate.
Oh god, of course.
Oh my god.
All right, moving on. Sorry.
In a country of 323 million, we have maybe one a year on average.
Oh really? One a year?
Yeah.
I can tell this article is already very well researched and is going to contain a lot of
boy.
nuance.
Yeah. But each time we have one, the news media sends out a casting call for the next one.
So he's a crisis actor. A crisis
He's
actor
like
person.
jokingly making a reference to crisis actors to like be like, hey, I'm not exactly one of those people, but
Yeah, I'm sure that
I
was
had
the
some
wink,
cool
wink.
takes about guns. Yeah.
It's time for us to do something. Not time for the government to do something. It's time for us to do something.
I agree.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure we got
interesting.
different solutions, but I agree.
Yeah, well, let's see what his solution is. The problem is not the availability of guns. Handguns and long guns have always been widely available in the United States. Semi-automatic rifles and pistols have been commonplace for more than 100 years. It's harder to acquire a firearm legally now than it ever has been.
Okay.
The problem is how our society treats children, especially boys. Teenaged rampage shooters are nihilists, both in the sense of believing in nothing and in the sense of wishful to annihilate. They see the world and existence as meaningless, terrible things. They want revenge.
They're fucking incels. They want revenge against women. Dude, all of these,
That's their uniting factor.
Yes.
100% of them.
like, they're fucking... Okay. Natalie, you go ahead. Like, I'm
No.
sure you've got more, like, rational things to say than I do about this.
But it's awful. Literally every single one. That's the thing that they all have in common. Like, they all have things that are different, but like number one is domestic violence. Like, if we stopped people who did violence against women from buying guns, the problem would just fucking stop. It's the third leading cause of death for women is that their partners just shoot them. Someone stabbed a woman right next door to my work in Cedar Rapids. Like, oh, sorry, we can go back to it. but that's a uniting factor. They are all violent misogynists before they're anything else.
Absolutely. I could do almost an entire show by myself about fucking incels, how much I hate them, how they come to be, the fucking problem that they are, the entitlement that they have,
Yeah.
and how it just fucking festers and grows like a fucking fungus on these like fucking message boards, Jesus Christ, image boards, whatever, 4chan, 8chan, where the fuck you want to call it, dude. Like, it's the absolute worst.
Cancer on society.
Absolutely cancerous. These people, like, very rarely can be fucking reasoned with. They're just like, they have their mind made up. Like, we're red pilled, or I've been black pilled. It's like, you know what, dude? Like, maybe if you weren't such a fucking repulsive person, you know, women might find a little bit of interest in you. Like, if you had any fucking redeeming qualities about your personality, maybe the opposite sex would take an interest in you, but you choose to be fucking disgusting because you think the fucking world, women in particular, owe you something. Fuck you, buddy. Sorry your skull isn't the right shape, or whatever fucking excuse you want to make now. It's because you're a shitbag. People don't like you because you're a fucking scumbag. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, I was going to say, I find it interesting that Joseph Dobrian immediately starts sympathizing with the people doing the shootings.
Yeah, that's a good
Doesn't even
point.
mention
Yeah,
the victims
fuck you,
once.
dude.
And given what we already know about him, it seems like there might be a potential reason why he empathizes with the shooters, like, immediately.
Remember that living situation he mentioned in his bio?
Yeah.
Okay, back to
Interesting.
the words of Dobrian, the sacred words here. They want revenge, either from personal animus or hatred of mankind in general. They want to go out in glory, taking as many people with them as possible.
He understands it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy's got a very empathetic.
Many boys have these nihilistic fantasies, more than you'd think.
Yeah? Like you included? Like you fucking Joe, huh?
Probably they always have had, but boys acting on them, that's a recent phenomenon. For the past several generations, including mine to some degree, although it was not so bad when I was growing up, academia and the media have pathologized men and boys. We're told subtly or overtly that heterosexual men are boneheaded, callous, violent, sexually predatory, that ordinary male behavior is bad and must be educated out of us, that
That's what
fathers
this
are
is about.
optional accessories to a family rather than essential elements. Many boys grow up without fathers whose traditional job is to keep boys in line.
Okay, so he's a men going their own way guy. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that heterosexual men are boneheaded, callous, violent, sexually predatory.
Yeah, for anyone
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
to this show, like, there's literally no reason
100%.
to date or get married to a man. They're fucking horrible creatures.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, as a heterosexual man myself, I'm certainly boneheaded, callous, violent, sexually predatory. Well, get rid of the
I'm
last
all
two.
the bad things except for the really bad things.
Yeah, and also I'm sure when Joseph Dobrian was growing up, there is absolutely no violence. And like, if you look at violence rates, I'm sure that it wasn't higher back then than it is now. Like, as a whole, you know, like men were definitely not acting out at all back in the fucking whenever the dinosaurs roamed the earth or whatever.
Especially not the fathers that he mentioned.
Yeah,
So-
they definitely
so
weren't
lovingly.
doing like, yeah, they definitely weren't doing any sort of bad things.
They were all violently.
They were all good fathers. There's good fathers back then.
Yes. Back to Joseph. We've also seen a growing tendency since the 1960s to medicate energetic boys. I ask...
Oh, energetic boys.
Energetic, yes. I ask because I don't know. Could these central nervous system stimulants and other psychotropics lead to schizophrenia, manic depression, or other disorders that manifest themselves years later in homicidal rages?
Oh, it's just made me shit post on Twitter a bunch. It's giving me terminal irony rot in like my frontal lobe of my brain. Haven't killed anybody, so you know.
Chuck's been pumped full of drugs, and he's never hurt anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the classroom, when I was growing up in the 1960s, boys were encouraged to be more like girls, i.e., more docile. Today, they're taught...
What?
Dude,
What?
This
goes
guy
against
cannot.
everything that conservatives are supposed to be about.
I don't
This
know
guy
what he's on
cannot
about.
stop dry snitching on himself. Oh my god.
Today, they're taught that masculinity is actually toxic, that boys succeed because of privilege, that the patriarchy must be done away with.
Not using any of those words correctly, but okay.
Damn, he's right.
So wait, they used to teach boys that being feminine was better, but now they teach them that masculinity is toxic. Good
I have
point,
no-
Joe.
Which
I
is
don't
it,
know.
liberals?
And Natalie, those words that you say he's using incorrectly, I will note that he put quotation marks around them, so that means
Okay.
he can use them however
However
he
he
wants.
wants.
So I'm going to jump in really quick here, and then we'll get back to this. So, as we've been talking about him, I think at the perfect point to talk about this, he wrote a book called Hardwired. I don't know if you have looked into anything he's written before, but this is the...
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it is about a character named Andy, who is unattractive, suspicious of others, fixated on a girl he can't win, embarrasses himself at sports, and as Andy observes, quote, having a younger brother who can beat you at anything, that's got to be the worst thing in the world.
Oh.
As he grows up in State City, Iowa, in the mid-1960s, ding, 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 Andy copes with his pathological self-loathing by imagining himself as a hero. He creates alternate realities in which he's powerful, accomplished, brave, and sometimes vengeful. Andy also remarks on the history that's being made, the assassination of President Kennedy, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and begins to develop a political conscience, as well as a strong sense of justice. I wonder who this book is written about. I wonder who Andy
euphoric.
is supposed to be.
Enlightened by his own logic, he decides to stop being a nerd who gets beat up by his own little brother.
Explains it all.
I believe that was published in 2016?
Yes, it was actually a prequel to a book that he had written prior called Ambition.
The hubris.
That's right. So the book Ambitions is about a man in his 60s, right? Hardwired visits the same man when he was a teenager, where you get to discover the kind of adult he became and how he got there. In Ambitions, Andy narrates the story of a neighbor family in the 2000s. Hardwired, however, tells his own story, looking back and commenting on his teenage years. So there you go. If you guys want some nice reading, just check out Hardwired, a novel by Joseph Dobrian.
Hell yeah.
Dobrin. All right, back to his article about guns and boys. They're taught that they as males are unnecessary, if not downright detrimental to society. Girls, meanwhile, are taught, you can do anything. Is it any wonder that many boys are nihilistic, embittered, desperate? Life can make you that way if you have no purpose, no destiny. If you're taught that your very being is a shameful handicap to overcome. If you see no way out of that scenario, it's no wonder if you turn against life itself, and dream of massacring the innocent so that at least you'll die knowing that you got a bit of your own back. I don't know what that means.
That's
fucked
I don't
up.
know. This guy's depressing.
What the fuck, dude?
This guy is hella depressing. Like, I love all these men's rights guys who basically make arguments for feminism, but they don't know it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to
up.
say, is like, you're touching on exactly what feminism is, which is not having gender roles like that. Oh, he's so close and then decides to...
No, feminism is catty women that make me feel bad.
They hurt my feelings.
They don't shave their legs, and that makes me feel disgusting.
Yeah, like, maybe we should treat boys more like girls.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you literally just said that, my guy. And then, like, I'm sure he has all sorts of ideas about how, like... Well, I mean, obviously. Anyway, go on.
I'm going to read that last sentence again just so I can understand it better. If you see no way out of that scenario, it's no wonder if you turn against life itself and dream of massacring the innocent so that at least you'll die knowing that you got a bit of your own back.
Wow,
dude.
You should
Oh my
write
God.
a book about how well you understand mass shooters. It isn't creepy at all.
Or he could write a book about how much he wishes he could have done a mass shooting when he was in high school. Because it clearly sounds like this. Like, he sounds like he's just how empathetic he is, and how, I mentioned the books that he wrote. Like, dude, this guy very well could have been a shooter in fucking high school.
He just didn't have the idea yet, or the ability to.
Right.
Oh my God.
Dude, I hate this
Wild.
guy. Fuck, dude, he sucks so bad. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think so. You mentioned him earlier in the week. Like we're gonna talk about this guy, and I very specifically did not read anything about him prior to it because I wanted us all to be surprised. I feel like I work best when I'm learning things about things for the first time. It's all improv. It's all improv. But dude, like, this guy sucks. Like, he fucking sucks.
He's not like a sorry Mark Chelgren, that part was awesome. It's the rest of it.
Yeah, he's not like some sorry, sad fucking character. He just sucks.
Yes, agreed.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me finish his article here. We've got just a few more sentences. We underestimate the necessity for clear direction and a sense of purpose in life, especially for boys, who tend to be more aggressive and less structured than girls. At the far end of the aggression spectrum, the sociopaths, the violent criminals, men far outnumber women. Much of this energy can be harnessed by giving a boy purpose, responsibility, and discipline. These are what give life meaning. These are the antidotes to anger, alienation, nihilism. We no longer celebrate a boy's natural aggressiveness, much less encourage him to turn it to useful purpose. Instead, his masculine energy is blamed for the world's ills, labeled poisonous, conflated with oppression. A boy is given no hope. I don't wonder that these rampage shootings happen. I'm astonished that they happen so rarely.
What? My God,
baby.
this guy is premium snowflake.
This was published 1 month after the Parkland shooting
Oh
in
my
Florida.
God.
What a
See,
my God.
this guy is a great example of why I think that every single person that's part of this of the conservative media that represents like the traditional sort of conservative values are fucking grifters, right? Like, this shit is so fucking easy to just make up, and just like there's people that eat this shit up. Right?
I'm pretty sure he feels that pretty deeply.
He does, but like I'm speaking to like how fucking easy it is to be this stupid.
Yeah.
You know, like it takes no fucking effort.
And you could just write for the newspaper.
Yeah, like fuck it, dude. Who's gonna tell you not to? Like people are gonna eat this shit up.
Yeah, this guy, he gets published basically for the hate clicks because everyone in Iowa City trashes his articles every time they come out.
But they come out because, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we're doing. But
Yeah, sure.
but still.
God, we're in the muck too.
So I've got a couple more from him that I'll let you guys in on in the future. I know that the next one, Chuck, you're gonna be even more angry about.
Is it about gaming?
No, it's about sports.
Oh yeah, okay. I get mad about
Ooh.
that too. So perfect. Can I get the headline at least?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the headline, and then
Yeah.
sometime later we'll read the whole thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
Joe Louis, Colin Kaepernick, a sorry contrast.
Oh, nice, dude. Kaepernick talk. Yeah, dude. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm.
It's original
I feel like it's
content.
what 2015 all over again. This is great.
I feel like it's 1960 all over again.
You know what I mean?
I feel like a boy growing up in the 1960s and being told to
Yeah.
act more like a girl.
A girl, yeah. I think that's cool. I mean, I didn't realize. I mean, I guess it was the era of free love and all that. But he didn't mention that in his article.
Right. Well, that's all the content I have prepared. Do we want to say anything to close?
Are we not going to
Yeah,
talk about the parking ticket article?
No. I have a progression for this. It's going to peak with that one.
I would like to say, guys, that anybody that knows me well knows that I'm a lifelong Oakland Raiders fan, and I've been going through the 7 stages of grief today. Oakland was able to acquire Antonio Brown in the offseason, who is a very, very good football player, but he's got a bit of an ego. So in the last few days, I have heard him say he's all in. I've heard him say that he, wanted out. I've heard him call the GM a cracker and try to punch him in the face. I've seen him burn his feet in a cryo sauna in France. I've seen him argue with the NFL about what sort of helmet he should wear. I saw him make a very artsy film this morning about how he was all in, and wanted to be a Raider, and was ready to go. And as of about 5 minutes ago, he has been released by the Oakland Raiders. So this is a nice sort of snapshot of my life in general. Like, this is how things go. This is what happens when you want nice things. It's all for naught. So I'll be pouring out a 40 today for the 2019-2020 Oakland Raiders, soon to be Vegas Raiders, and I hope that you'll all pour one out in solidarity with me.
I feel for you, brother.
Yeah,
I feel for
so
you.
like I made a post about it. Like Evan and I were in here before the show, and I was literally going through the 7 stages of grief. Like, I got angry with him, and was like, I was just getting so fucking mad at him.
I'd rubbed a little bit of salt in the wound.
He
Perhaps.
did, yeah. But,
I'm sorry,
I don't
Chuck.
get salty. I'm fucking, That's not true at all. But no, I've been through quite the roller coaster, and I'm basically, what I'm going through is equal to the absolute worst that anyone else could be going through over anything else. So I just request empathy from everybody, and don't message me about this. Don't make fun of me about this, because
Radical
it's basically the worst
solidarity.
thing that could happen to somebody.
All right, listeners. Well, thanks for joining us again for the third
Thank you so
edition
much.
of the Rock Hard Caucus. Tune in the future. We'll discuss more of the, state legislators who are absolute monsters and freaks. We'll talk more about Joseph Dobrian sometime later. We've got more opinion writers, more freaks to talk about. Keep tweeting at us. It's at Rock Hard Caucus. All of our personal profiles are in the bio there.
Yeah, we got good ideas from you guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
for sure.
Thanks to the people tweeting at us for helping us, generate content. That's all from me. Bye.
Goodbye,
Give
everybody.
money to Daddy Bernie.
Oh,
and just,
yeah.
we'll probably
Yeah.
talk about national politics more in the future.
I bought a fanny pack. You could buy a Bernie fanny pack too.
Yeah. Also, I want to give a shout out to Corey at Great Clips on the Southeast 14th Street. She's a major Bernie gal, and it was cool.
Thanks, Evan's hairdresser.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye forever. This is my last episode. Just kidding.
I don't know. Can't lose a major player like that. That'd be like the Raiders losing Antonio Brown. And please include that.